Hello and welcome everybody to episode 12 of Weather Nerds. I am your host, First Alert Weather Nerd CD Finley, here to talk about quite a lot actually today. We have a lot going on in the weather headlines locally as well as nationally, so we're going to go ahead and jump right on into it. So first and foremost, we have a lot of anniversaries that have come up this week, one of which is my own work anniversary, officially here for 1 year at KWTX. My work anniversary is officially May 20th, so that was a few days ago. Thank you again for those of you who commented on my Facebook page and left me all good well wishes and thanks, and I really appreciate all of that. And of course, thank you for continuing to support and watch us here at KWTX as well. Seriously, would not be able to do that without your support. So, but aside from my own 1 year anniversary, today is also the 1 year anniversary, or just 1 year since a very devastating tornado here in central Texas. That, of course, being the Temple tornado back in May 2024. And actually, this was the first tornado that I ever chased here with KWTX. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to kind of go back a little bit and talk about, what went down that day, what the situation was like. And I actually have a few photos to kind of go along with it as well to kind of help tell the story here. But obviously, if you kind of put two and two together, my 1 year work date was 2 days ago, and this tornado happened maybe a good 2 or 3 days later after my first day here in the professional world at all. This is actually my first, job as a meteorologist. So that was an interesting introduction to this field, and definitely made for an interesting few days at work. And some of you who may have been watching the coverage that day may have heard Brady say it a few times. I hadn't actually shown my face on air yet, at least not through newscasts or coverage or anything. But you got kind of a clip of what we were doing that day, which here is a picture of me and my best friend Jake Ward, who also works here as a photographer and journalist. There's a picture of us that same day there in the Weather Explorer, getting ready to go out and chase all of the storms that happened that day. And here's a picture of the Explorer that I took there as well, out at the Coryell Creek Ranch, where we were kind of parked just waiting. And right on top of the Explorer there in the sky, you can actually see the Mamadas clouds that we've grown to know here across central Texas in these stormy seasons. I know a lot of people, especially in the last few weeks, have been sending in a lot of pictures about the Mamadas clouds. And for those of you who don't know what Mamadas clouds are, I have a little bit of an aside here, since we usually do that kind of thing here on Weather Nerds. But essentially, a Mamadas cloud is, it's a signal of all the instability that's in the atmosphere. Basically, after a storm rolls through, all the leftover buoyancy that's in the atmosphere starts to create some rolls in those clouds. And so that's essentially what a Mamadas cloud is. It's all the air just kind of pulsating in all that moisture. But yeah, so those were some pictures here, and another thing I kind of want to show you all as well is a little bit of the coverage that we had that day. So I'm going to go ahead and cut here real quick to a clip of our chief meteorologist, Brady Taylor, from that day as the storms were kind of moving through and as that tornado warning came in to Bell County around that Temple area. And again, this was a year ago to the day. So let's go ahead and take a look here and see what the coverage was like that day.
And then you get that strong surge of wind. So, sorry, trying to diagnose some of this as we're talking right now. So again, that's the view we have from our First Alert Chase team. The screenshot you see there in the corner, that's from meteorologist CD Finley. He's actually only been working here for, 3 days now, and now he's out in the middle of a monster storm. So that's the view on the I-14 area. You see the flag there in the corner there. That is a very large U.S. flag that is getting blown very stiff from those strong straight line winds. So again,
So, yeah, there you go. That was a little bit of the coverage there. And you can see, as you heard Brady mention, this was literally my second or third day at work. And we kind of got caught up in the backside of that storm there. So we actually didn't wind up seeing the tornado that day. What we actually did see, though, was pretty much hurricane force winds. I mean, the winds were gusting, or sustained to gusting, between about 70, 80 miles per hour as we were driving down the interstate there. And it was very, very windy, as you saw with that flag that was kind of blowing there in that in the frame that you saw. So while we didn't actually see the tornado, the storm itself was very, very strong. And then we got a little bit more coverage here to kind of go along with what was going on that day. I'm not sure if this was, let me double check here and see. So this was actually before the storm made its way to Temple. It actually did have a tornado warning on it previously, and this was kind of before we got caught up in that big hurricane-like mess. We actually had a pretty good view of the wall cloud that was getting going on this storm, and so that's what this clip is here. So let's go ahead and cut to that and see what that was like.
Near the Adamsville area that we're watching closely with that storm as well. And you can see, man, just dark and nasty view from our view from the our First Alert Chase team. I just saw from our Weather Explorer, this is meteorologist C.D. Finley. He's got a little farther away view, but there you can see the wall cloud with this as well. So our First Alert Chase team right underneath this storm. This is the view closer to the Coppers Cove area, a little further away from the storm. So if you're in the western Bell County area, eastern portions of Lampasas County, and you're seeing this area here, this is kind of that action area of that storm. So both giving pretty significant views of that storm that's going on. So kind of dueling views there from our Weather Explorer and our First Alert Chase team with that storm. And we'll check back in with CD's view here in just a second.
So I apologize. I'm kind of listening because I don't know where my headphones went. But yeah, so you can see there that was kind of the big part of our coverage that day too. So you had me and Jake out in the Weather Explorer, and then you had our First Alert Chase team, who we also work with, the Vortex crew. They also go out, and so we had kind of dueling views before that storm even made its way into the Temple area. We had me kind of on that far view where you could actually see the whole wall cloud, and meanwhile the Vortex Chasers, our First Alert Chase team, they were practically right underneath the storm. So it was kind of cool to see those dueling views. It really helped us out with our coverage there a little bit. And, of course, I also wanted to show you this little radar grab that we had, or that I grabbed while I was out chasing. This is from an app that I use called Radar Scope. And you can see this was right as it was entering the Temple area with that tornado warning. And you can see that hook right there in the center of the screen, right there just to the west of Temple, that produced that tornado that caused some pretty decent damage in the area. And I believe, if I remember correctly, this tornado was actually rated an EF2. So it was definitely the strongest storm of that day, and you can even see, I'm going to pull this back up again so you can take a look at that radar grab. But not only do you have the hook there, but if you look to the left of the hook, where you have all of those little purple colors and things right there, that's actually the hail core. That was some pretty decent hail that was falling in on the top of that storm. And Jake and I, we were kind of falling in behind the hook. So we were trying not to get swiped by the large hail, and also not get swiped by the tornado that was supposedly out ahead of us, which we know it was out ahead of us. So yeah, we were in a little bit of a precarious situation that day, and it was definitely an interesting second or third day on the job, to say the least. So, yeah, that's just a little bit insight about the Temple tornado. Again, that happened a year ago to the day, at least of the live show here on Weather Nerds. Of course, if you're watching on on our Degrees of Science YouTube channel or on our website, this is likely a little bit later. Of course, the anniversary of this tornado, May 22nd. Originally occurred May 22nd, 2024. So again, a year ago to the day. So many people are going to be talking about that today. You're probably going to hear a lot about that in our news coverage today as well. I believe we have a few people that are working on stories on that. So wanted to hit on that a little bit today in the podcast. But we also have some other things to get to in the podcast today, because even it is still severe weather season, and we've had a lot to talk about, not even just locally, but nationally as well. But let's go ahead and start locally, since we've already kind of talked about that. So this photo I'm about to show you, this was actually sent in to us from another local storm chaser here in Central Texas from the Meridian area this past Friday. And these were some pretty large hailstones that were dropped just to the north of Meridian, actually. And you can see here with that little grip he's using, it measured a little over 2 inches in diameter. So that's about tennis ball to baseball size hail that fell in Meridian earlier last week. And yeah, definitely some of the largest hail we've seen so far in Central Texas this year, without a doubt. And so that was a little bit about what went on locally. Thankfully, we hadn't seen anything tornadic in the last week or so, but I can't say the same for a lot of other places, especially just about an hour and a half to the north of Central Texas. Take a look at this. This was a radar grab that I actually grabbed off of Radar Scope again from, I believe this was Sunday night, of a tornado warning that was moving through the DFW Metroplex. You can see this is actually the wind velocity. So you got the green that's going toward wind that's going toward the radar, red that's going toward away, and I kind of circled it there to kind of show you the couplet in the middle of that tornado warning. This actually did produce a tornado, I believe, just to the west of Little Elm. Thankfully, it doesn't sound like it made it all the way into Frisco, but very thankful for that because obviously these were some very populated areas. And this was actually one of two storms that produced tornadoes on Sunday night across North Texas. There was another storm that produced some pretty long track tornadoes out to the west of the Fort Worth area near Weatherford and maybe even a little bit further west, like south of Wichita Falls, I believe. I don't have anything to show you on that one, unfortunately, but so it was definitely an active weather day this past Wednesday, again, mainly, or Sunday, I should say, mainly off to our north and up into Oklahoma as well, which I don't have a photo to show you for this one either, unfortunately, but there was, I'm sure many of you saw on social media, so there's actually a research team that went out in Arnett, Oklahoma from this past weekend or this past week. And there was a tornado that happened out in Arnett, kind of right across the Texas Panhandle into western Oklahoma. Dropped a very photogenic tornado, and thankfully this one kind of roped out and went away before it hit the community of Arnett. It was kind of mostly just over open land, but there were a lot of storm chases there to see it, including that research group that sent a drone into the tornado. You could see if you look it up on social media. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you on here because I don't have it. But if you go look on social media, you look around, you can find a video of this research team that sent their drone into the tornado. And once the tornado captures the drone kind of goes around the center of the circulation, and eventually you can practically see the eye. And essentially it was and thankfully it wasn't a very large one. It was a very cone-shaped tornado, and as it kind of went around, you could see like kind of the drill bit that was going in on the ground and kind of picking things up. So feel free to check that one out. That was one of the coolest videos I'd seen in a while of any tornado footage. But speaking of tornado footage, this was unfortunately a much worse situation that happened out in the Midwest from last week. I believe this was also last Friday, May 16th, May 17th-ish. A large tornado, unfortunately, made its way through the St. Louis area, and this is a photo I want to show you here from one of the Earth cams in downtown St. Louis of that storm as it was moving through. I'm sure many of you saw us post information about that here on Facebook as well from last week. But you can see the St. Louis Arch there in the foreground, and then essentially what is a large rain-wrapped tornado in the background that causing damage there in the city of St. Louis. And of course, this was, again, last week. This is not current, but so that was one of the big highlights, big stories from the severe weather outbreak. Of course, we also had a lot of storms that moved through Kentucky, West Virginia, which unfortunately there were some fatalities that were reported with those storms. So definitely a big weather week here, not just across North Texas, but across the entire United States, essentially. There was a big severe weather outbreak from this last week. So thought that was worth mentioning as well, which is also kind of, it reminds us the importance of your local meteorologist, right? And I'm not just saying that to, kind of push our own, push us on you, but just your local meteorologist in general, no matter where you are, it's important to know who's the most reliable. It's important to know, who to go to when in times like that when stuff like that is happening, because that's our job as meteorologists, to keep you informed and hopefully prevent you from being in a life-threatening situation such as we saw across the Midwest from this past week. So that was kind of the main highlights from local and national of the past week. Another thing I want to show you, and this is a little bit more nerdy, so to speak, so we're going to go into more weather nerd type conversation now. But this was a photo and a video that was sent in to me and my family, actually, from some family friends that were on a road trip out across Wyoming from this past week. And believe it or not, what I'm about to show you is actually not a tornado. So let's go ahead and take a look here at this photo. What you'll notice here is that you've got a little rope kind of coming down from the base of that cloud right there. And if you were driving kind of like right along the road, just kind of minding your own business, and you happen to come across this in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, your first initial thought would be, yeah, that's probably a tornado. Well, believe it or not, this is not a tornado because it's actually a cold air funnel. I may have mentioned this a few times before, but essentially a cold air funnel is not tornadic. The way a cold air funnel forms is essentially you have cold air aloft, you have warm air at the base, cold air starts to sink, right? So as that cold air starts to sink from the top to the bottom of the storm, it starts to kind of fizzle up a little bit of that moisture, and that creates that cold air funnel. And it's very rare that cold air funnels even make it all the way to the surface like this one does. Sometimes they just kind of dangle around up in the top of the cloud, and mostly it just remains as a funnel that's kind of maybe even close to halfway down. But this one, very, very rare occurrence, makes it almost maybe 3/4 of the way to the surface. And I actually have a video here to kind of show you as well, to kind of give you a visual representation of what this one, this cold air funnel actually looked like. Back it up here, folks. Sorry, 1 second. Kind of realizing that it's not playing from the beginning. Here we go. So yeah, you can see they were kind of driving along right there, and it was a very harmless situation. I mean, it was just right over open land, middle of nowhere, Wyoming, which, by the way, if those of you weren't aware, Wyoming is a very sparsely populated state. So if it weren't for them just kind of happening upon it, nobody probably would have seen this one. So very, very cool thing there. And actually, I want to show you another way that you can tell that it was a cold air funnel. So obviously, when this was sent in to me, I had to do a little bit of investigating. So I took a look at the radar across Wyoming around that time. So keep in mind, they were traveling, our family friends that sent this in, they were traveling right to the north of Superior, Wyoming, I believe. So as we take a look at this radar grab, you can see Superior kind of right there along that interstate right there, that large blue line that moves through Rock Springs. And you can see very spotty storm activity, but nothing that appears anywhere near organized, which is a very strong indicator that this was just a cold air funnel and nothing that was tornadic whatsoever. So very cool thing there to kind of happen upon. And sometimes the National Weather Service, if they notice that conditions are going to be favorable for that kind of thing, I believe the National Weather Service in Illinois actually had to do this recently. But sometimes they'll put out notice saying like, hey, cold air funnels, or actually, sorry, it's not Illinois, it was Oklahoma. Oklahoma actually did this recently. But they'll sometimes put out notices saying like, hey, cold air funnels are going to be possible today. If you see one, it's not tornadic, that kind of thing. So really, really cool stuff there to kind of note. So yeah, that's kind of some synopsis of what's been going on weather-wise here across local and national over the last week and a half. Again, it's been very busy. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the forecast before we go. I'll kind of give you a quick rundown of what's been happening here across central Texas and is going to be happening. So let's go ahead and pop up our graphics here. So again, obviously you're looking here at the Skycam over our Hillcrest Skycam here in Waco today, and you can see how gray it is outside here on this Thursday, May 22nd. Very humid. The humid has made a return to the forecast, that is for sure. And you can see those temperatures already sitting in the low to mid 80s here, right around the 11:30 time frame, and the dew points sitting in mid 70s. So mid 70s, you got about 84 over 73 in Waco, which is, yeah, that's humid. So very sticky outside today, and you can even see the increase in the dew points, about 20 plus increase in those dew points over the last 24 hours between Wednesday, May 21st and May 22nd. So unfortunately, the humidity is going to be sticking around. But and actually, I'm realizing that this graphic says Monday headlines. I'm glad I checked this before I actually went to air. Let's. I'm going to change this right here, as you can see. You guys are getting a quick look behind the scenes. Let's see if it updates. There we go. Look at that. So yeah, we're talking first alert weather headlines. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the humidity that has returned, obviously, as I just shown you. But this Thursday night, we are watching for maybe a few stray storms that might pop up. And then, of course, we're going to be talking the Memorial Day forecast, which looks like storm chances are going to be back in play around that time as well. So if you're watching live here on Facebook, feel free to join us over on Midday with Julie at KWTX on Channel 10. We'll be doing that. You can also watch that on our website as well as our app. We'll have the latest on the forecast there for all of you to enjoy and stay informed. So that's kind of what we got going on local weather-wise today. Behind the scenes-wise, I know Brady's been working on some degrees of science stuff. He actually filmed an interview earlier this morning, so it'll be cool to see how that one kind of pans out. I also did an interview last week. I'm not quite sure when it's going to come out yet, but it'll eventually probably be up here on Weather Nerds at some point, talking about pet safety and what you can do with your pets when we get toward the summertime. Obviously, here in Central Texas, it gets really hot, and we're kind of getting toward that time of year. We're getting toward the end of May, so that'll be a good one. Hopefully, I'll have that one out sometime soon. So that's kind of what we got going on behind the scenes. Obviously, I don't believe there's much else going on beyond that. So, again, for those of you who aren't familiar, if you're watching live here on Facebook, we also have other opportunities to watch episodes of Weather Nerds. All previous episodes of Weather Nerds are actually uploaded to the Degrees of Science YouTube channel. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this here. Again, this is a little bit of a dated screen grab here, but I'll show it to you anyway so you can kind of get an idea. This is the Degrees of Science YouTube channel on the YouTube app that you can get on your phone, your iPad, your laptop, whatever you got. You can see all of our previous videos of Degrees of Science episodes, Weather Nerds episodes, all right there. But if you want to see Weather Nerds in particular, if you just go on over to the podcast tab, there's a whole playlist full of all previous episodes of Weather Nerds, with the exception of episode 1, where we had some audio issues that we kind of were battling there. So unfortunately, that one didn't get uploaded. But with the exception of that one, this one and all other episodes of Weather Nerds should be there. So again, if you missed this one, feel free to check that out. Also, feel free to check out the Degrees of Science YouTube channel. They've got a lot of Degrees of Science interviews that you might find interesting there as well. So that's it for me today. Thank you all so much for tuning in on this episode 12 of Weather Nerds. I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead.